So this is a project that I supervised last year in my third year group. So I run a theme each year that's linked to some of the research I do on designing for older adults. And the key point of the theme is for students to engage with and understand the needs of older adults and design products that basically improve their quality of life. So it's not about medical devices. It's about basically worked on the basic premise of it is just because you're an older adult, why shouldn't you be able to do all the things you used to be able to do? And Julian, this student, chose I can't remember exactly what it was, but basically the challenge he identified was that older adults who are playing computer games online are disadvantaged because they can't manage the controller properly. So one of the things when I'm looking at sort of design projects, when I'm assessing them, is I don't tend to comment on the actual design because that depends on the brief and the target users. And in this particular project, it was interesting for me because until I met Julian, I had no idea that people sort of, older adults, and I'm sort of approaching that, actually play computer games. I thought it was something only teenagers did. So it was quite interesting from that point of view. It was a really good project that he did. So obviously I learned a lot about the people he was designing for. And this gives you the sort of final image of his final design. So this was a project that was chosen to be exhibited at New Designers and our New Designers stand. So it's one of the stronger projects in the year group. Obviously last year, because it was because of COVID, it was done remotely. So he presented this remotely at New Designers. So that's his sort of final design. You can see the detail in it, how it's shown in context. But one of the real strengths of this project was the prototyping that he did. So I'll just scroll through and show you. He started with some research, basically looking at the capabilities of older adults, and particularly arthritis, which affects an awful lot of people. And he had some target users who he was interacting with over the internet, and they sort of told him or explained to him some of the difficulties he had, and he sort of coupled that with research from the literature to develop his design requirements. But I know that Gerard and Lisa, you both do work in this area. So do you want to add anything about the problem?
Yeah, I really like this project. I think because it really does look at the way we try and build a profile for our graduates, ones that respond to societal need and actually evaluate the problem through testing and evaluating prototypes and communicating with end users. I also like it because it demonstrates Julian's critical thinking, also the value of the level 3 project, which is a 60 credit project, if I get that correct, and the level 3, which is about independent study, independently driven, and trying to identify the key issues and problems that can be addressed in society through good design.
And the other thing is a 60 credit project, so at least 600 hours of study time. So it's a lot of work, and you can see that as you look through the portfolio. I don't know if Gerard's still here.
I like this in terms of like the background information that he collected and the background level of knowledge that he developed over this project was immense. But yet he's presented a very clean and clear, crisp level of research here that, from the outside looks like there's not much to it, but there's an awful lot of depth in terms of he's looked and seen, so he's really observed what the problems are, and he's communicated that here visually very clearly and very well.
Yeah, I agree. So if I go to the next page, this was some of the research he did and the design ideation or concept development. So we've got these gloves, the Cambridge simulation gloves. So he actually put some of those gloves on himself and tried to use a controller with things that basically constrained his grip and his movement of his fingers and thumbs. And then you can see on the right hand side here a really good range of concepts. And then what I'm always looking for in concepts, I'm a mechanical engineer by training, so I'm looking for an appreciation of what the actual problem is that's being solved, and then really radically different solution principles. So not the same, basically the same approach replicated in with little tweaks around it, but looking at really radically different ways of coming up with a solution. And the thing that for me is always important is we want lots of concepts. So even if your first idea was the best one, you won't know unless you've produced lots of others, evaluated them, and discovered that that one came out first. And in my experience, I've never seen the first idea come out as the best. So that's why I think this is a really good page in terms of the range of concepts he's got. But I'll let you chip in, Gerard, and then Lisa, maybe.
What I liked about this is one of the challenges a product designer has is kind of building a deep sense of empathy of the problem. And I like the way Julian approached that by using these gloves in this case. So he could feel to some degree what it was like to have dexterity issues, and then he took that understanding into his design work and built it forward. So that's a challenge that we all face when we're facing these complex problems and trying to create solutions for them, that getting ourselves into the shoes of those that are living it every day. I've done that really well.
I think I'd agree with that. And for me, I do actually like the ways in which he's refined the different concepts and the characteristics of the different design directions through both trial, error, visual sketches, prototyping. So he's used the full skill set of a good product designer, which is not just sketching, but it's actually thinking through observations, thinking through prototyping, and thinking through interaction as well.
And then I think the next few pages show the range of prototypes he developed. So you can see he developed prototypes of different concepts, and then sort of as he went through, the prototypes became more higher fidelity. So he started off, I think he actually started off with some cardboard and paper prototypes, and then moved through to using chipboard and bits of wood, and then eventually he 3D printed some of the components. So you can see how he's used the prototypes to actually inform his designing, which is really important. So you can draw something and it looks fantastic, but it's only when you try and make it you realize what the challenges are. So for example, one of the challenges I know he had, remember, was to do with these, how he was going to make this hinge, and how he was going to make it so it was strong enough to hold the device and not affect the game, but also not so sloppy that it would be easy to use, but basically didn't work. So he had that sort of trade-off to make.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything? Should I go on? I think there's another page of prototypes here. Oh yes, so then this is him using the prototypes and showing how they might be used. I think are they two different kinds of controller? Do one of you know? I know that looks like.
Yeah, I think it was a modular integrated set. I think you probably see it more so on the next page, which is the next page that I get particularly excited for, where he actually considered the whole modular system as it stands, and then also the packaging for me. So it was not just looking at the final product, but also the points of sale, the packaging, the instructions, every aspect of good product design, which looks at everything from the point of conception all the way through to delivery.
Yeah. And what do you want to say, Gerard?
Yeah, I think like even the silhouettes in the previous page demonstrate that he's looked at how the user will game, like their seating position, where their hands will be, where their arms will be resting, and has incorporated this variety into his design. Yeah. So he's incorporated that understanding into the capabilities of the product itself, which is really good.
Yeah, and then I think we've got there's the packaging that Lisa mentioned.
Yeah. And
then these are some details of the final bit. Was he built these obviously very detailed SolidWorks models, and then here we use KeyShot to do these renders. I mean, when I look at these, I get to the point sometimes with some of our projects, I don't actually know what's real and what's a CAD model. And this was an example. I mean, it looks so realistic to me, but that again, the amount of detail you need to go into in your design work to be able to create models like this is what really made the difference for this project.
Yeah, it's a great example.
Yeah, really good.
Really good example. Thank you very much for your input.
No, thank you.